Welcome to the Carolina Fire Watch, where we are your source for the North Carolina Fire Service news, training, leadership, and real-world lessons learned. From the mountains to the coast, we're powered by the pride, honor, and tradition of the Old North State. Now, let's get into today's show. Hey, everyone, and welcome to the May episode of the Carolina Fire Watch. I'm your host, Brian Kelly, and this month, we've got a lot to cover, and you're not going to want to miss it. You know, this month, we're going to talk about firefighters and politics and why Legislative Day matters more than you think. And I want to ask you this question. What does the fire service have to do with politics? You know, a lot of firefighters will say nothing, but the reality is that decisions that are made in Raleigh and at their local town halls affect your department. And they affect things like your funding, your staffing, your benefits, and your future. And whether we like it or not, if we're not a part of that conversation, we're leaving it up to someone else to make those decisions. So this month, we're asking you to show up in Raleigh, May 20th, for Fire Service Legislative Day, and really educate yourself before you go. So join me on this month's episode as we talk politics. All right, fresh out of the gate, we got Mike Lagares with Lagares Fire Service History, and we're going to do this month in Fire Service History. Mike, what have you got for us this month?
This month, I've got two stories from Charlotte that I'm going to share. But before I get into that, I'm going to just I'll tell a little bit about myself and admit that I may know a lot about the state's fire service, but I don't always remember it. We all know that if you don't use it, you lose it, which means for these two incidents, I had to go back and look at my research notes. I even did a little fresh research. So I hope our users, those folks over in Charlotte, if you hear something that's not quite right, well, it's your chance to chime in on the social media channels. It's also a reason why if you just, if you talk to me and say, hey, Mike, what happened on this day? And tell us a little here, you'll often hear me say, well, as best as I recall, or I need to check my notes because I don't even trust my own memory with a lot of these details. So let's go into the first incident, and this is the South Park fire, May 18th, 2023, 3 years ago. It's also called the Liberty Row fire, which is what the Action After report called it. And this is a historic fire. It might be the largest fire in Charlotte's history, at least by structural size, nearly 200,000 square feet. This was a 7-story luxury apartment building that was under construction. We have the top 5 stories are going to be apartments. The bottom 2 is a parking deck, concrete. It's been built out, it's wood frame, but they don't have the compartmentalization yet. Obviously, no fire suppression system. And I think there was only one stairwell so far for the building. So it's a weekday. It's reported at 9:04 a.m. as a vehicle fire in a parking deck. And what's burning is a construction trailer. So the first unit gets there. It's a ladder company. It's got heavy smoke. It calls for a working fire. And pretty soon a second alarm, pretty soon the third alarm. And within an hour, you've got 5 alarms that have been struck. You've got 17 engines on scene, 9 ladders, and that includes the tower ladders, 6 battalion chiefs and other units. So it's a windy day. Flames are spreading fast, and there are construction workers on site, including 2 that were trapped. They could see them in an upper window. They tried raising the aerial to get them, but firefighters getting close. Wind conditions, fire conditions changed. Firefighters had to back off, and I think one or both of them had to just basically slide back down the aerial ladder. They were not hurt. Unfortunately, the 2 workers were not rescued. Their bodies were found later. Another worker was the operator of the tower crane. He stayed at his post. You got flames going on. You've got heat. He stayed at his post. He had a construction radio. He was there. He thought he could help in case the crane could be used for a rescue. And rescue company members climbed the stairs. They rescued him. And I think in all total, about 14 workers were rescued by firefighters. So you've got a 5-alarm blaze, over 90 firefighters on scene. You have 3 sides of the structure collapsed, and including damaging some fire apparatus. I think 4 pieces of apparatus were damaged, including 2 ladder trucks that were rendered unusable. Also, you had some of the nearby buildings damaged with rooftop fires, spreading embers. But so across the courtyard, across the street, is a nearly identical building. Firefighters prevented spread there, did not catch. Historic incident, and many, maybe all of our readers followed this along in real time due to the media coverage and dramatic photos. But
Yeah.
this is an example of a fire that has had a downstream effect. And Brian, tell us about what's happened. We know it had an effect in Charlotte. I mean, they produced about 100-page after action report with everything
Yeah.
from a timeline through various lessons learned. By the way, folks can find that. It's pretty easy to find on the web. I've got a copy of it. You can Google Charlotte South Park Fire Lagares. But tell us on the code side, what are some of the things that happened as a result of this fire, Brian?
Yeah, things definitely, like you said, it had a social media presence, and now 3 years post, there is still litigation going on. And I made some phone calls to some friends of mine, at Charlotte Fire, and they're still limited in what they can say. But in the totality of this, we have seen things proactively change. But before we talk about specifically what changed, I want those who may not know how codes work in North Carolina to kind of get a fundamental basis here of how things are adopted. So for decades now in North Carolina, our NC code officials, not just fire, we utilize the North Carolina Building Code, which is based off of what we call the International Code Council. And these codes are in the areas of building, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, fire, and also the existing buildings. And the reason for that is, especially for natural disasters like hurricanes and things like that, the existing building allows you to put it back like it was. We use the term grandfathered, but that existing building really helps with that. So try to keep up here in this next part that I'm going to cover for our listeners. We're using a code that's updated every 6 years by legislation. Several years back, the North Carolina legislature said, we don't want you to go every 3 years. We want you to go every 6 years. And they're fundamentally, this is where it can get a little confusing. They're based off of 3 years behind the current version. So for example, if I can kind of explain that, the 2024 NC Fire Code, and we're in 2026, but that was the last revision, is actually the 2021 International Fire Code with North Carolina revisions. So let me say that again. The 2024 North Carolina Fire Code is the 2021 IFC with revisions. And the reason for that is because North Carolina said that we want to look at every 3 years to evaluate the entirety and look at the impact that those codes would have on the construction community and effectiveness of those communities as well. So in other words, they really don't want to do hardship on the building community. Now that's made us very economically development friendly. We're going to save some more of that for another episode. But the Building Code Council is made up of trade professionals, and it's designed to have a balance of power, kind of like how our government is set up. And so that way, no side really wins in code adoption. It evaluates cost, frequency, and probability of risk, right, of all these different things, of all these code adoptions, because codes are often impacted because someone died, got hurt, or looks at the environment. And so that's that balancing act of people. However, this does, and the delay, if you will, of adoption does have an impact on areas such as FEMA grant funding and eligibility of ISO scores. And like I said, we're going to dive into that to another episode. And I want to know in the comments on the show if that's a topic you'd love for us to cover. Now, back to South Park for you, Mike. After the incident, the North Carolina Fire Service, specifically the NC Fire Marshals Association, actively involved there, myself, realized that something needed to be done after that incident. And so it enlisted the help of the North Carolina Fire Code Revision Committee. Now, the Fire Code Revision Committee is a group of fire code professionals representing a variety of organizations from cities, counties, large and small, and it also periodically collects input from the public as well. So, for example, in the incident of the South Park, like you had mentioned, these luxury hotels, it enlisted input from the hotel, or the apartment association. Now, this group identified that the NFPA standards specifically that it needed to get guidance for fire safety during construction and demolition. It was outdated. drastically. In fact, in 2013, to be exact. So it pushed to adopt the 2022 version as well as develop guidance for NC officials in the 2024 code. Now, one small hiccup is the 2024 is still not in effect, and due to legislation that delayed the process due to the Hurricane Helene and the revised Building Code Council, it's still not in place. So that information is all to come in another episode, but let's go back and listen to the next episode or the next segment that you've got.
So my second story, so we got you more coming in your story there. Going to teach people, tell people more about how all this works with codes. I'm going to go to a second story. Well, hold on. I'm going to give myself a little sidebar. A little fun fact about the South Park fire. The fire investigation team was led by an investigator named Jason Boggs. Well, here in Wake County, we have a fire investigator also named Jason Boggs. Two investigators with the same name in the two big cities in North Carolina. Little fun fact. So now we're going to go back for our second story, another one that had a downstream impact. This is July 1959. This is the Charlotte Chemical Company fire, July 9th. And this was an industrial site. It was a former chemical company site just off South Boulevard. And in fact, just around the corner from Fire Station 2, the building was being demolished, and there was a vat. Maybe they'd forgotten about it, and this vat contained sodium. Now, I'm not a chemist, and I'm looking at my notes here. I believe it's metallic sodium, and they had it in kerosene, the kerosene to prevent reactivity, notably to water. And the demolition experts, I believe they'd pulled the roof off of that building, which exposed this vat to the elements. And there had been rain, some heavy rain. Rain comes down, gets in the vat, sets off a reaction, which ignited the kerosene. And the firefighters arrived, quick to get there, and they think it's just a kerosene fire. So they start spraying water, adding foam. They first started with foam. They first started with water. They're spraying water, and the fire's getting hotter and hotter. Okay, let's try some foam. They're just getting ready to use foam when this vat exploded. A big explosion and injured 13 firefighters, some of them critically. One of them lost both of their ears and much of their face, had to retire because of those injuries. It's said that another later committed suicide. The incident shook the area. Metallic sodium sprays everywhere, about a 2-block radius. The news reports talk about, I think, maybe 50 cars damaged by such building material or things, and then maybe as many as 200 cars worried about the paint or something from the materials. And the impact, as is written in historical accounts, this shook CFD to their foundations. It had numerous effects, just like the South Park fire, where you had an after-action report noting various things that the department should look at. Here, Charlotte in 1959 began looking at improvements, such as began to buy and issue PPE. Up until this time, if you were a member of the department, you were responsible to buy it yourself. They also broadened the fire inspection program. And then the big impact, the one that we're still feeling today, came from Fire Marshal J.F. Morris. And he developed a marking system to identify hazmats in buildings. And he designed a series of diamond-shaped symbols. And he was helped by the city's Department of Transportation because they had a sign shop, and they were already making diamond-shaped signs. And it would indicate, hey, you've got a hazmat and the various parts of it, flammability, health hazards, reactivity. That diamond shape was adopted by the National Fire Protection Association, part of their standard 704. 704 was already kind of in the works. Their committee had started working on that, I believe, around 1959. And it was the first version of that came out in 1960, then adopted as a standard in 1961. And it's called 704 because that's the area code of Charlotte.
Wow. Now that's a neat little segment there at the end there, that's how 704 was established. Who would have thought that? I mean, it's simple enough, but That is very, very good. Well, Mike, thank you so much. A little deeper dive than what we normally go into, but definitely a good look at how fire service changes history for sure, whether it's a 704 placard or legislatively, even recently, and in one community in specific. So thank you for joining us this month. And again, for those who may be their first episode, where do they go to find you guys every month and every day with things happening across the state?
You can find my work. I call myself a public safety storyteller. You can look me up on Facebook, Lagaris Fireline. I've got a blog, I've got fire photos, and probably the easiest way to find me is just you type in Raleigh fire photos on Google.
Sounds good. Mike, thanks for joining us this month.
Thank you all.
All right, y'all, it's time for our main segment where we're going to talk fire service and politics. And I've got with me some of my dear good friends that are on the North Carolina State Firefighters Association, both chiefs. I'm going to call them Chief Doug and Chief Steven, because if not, I'm going to mess up Doug's last name, and he's going to yell at me like he normally does. So I'm going to start with him. Is that okay? Is that okay,
Sure.
Doug?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All
Sure.
right.
Sure.
So y'all introduce yourselves one at a time. Doug, starting with you first.
Okay, my name is Doug Bissette. I am the first vice president of the North Carolina State Firefighters Association. That makes me the legislative chair this year. I've been in the fire service for 26 years. I started out as an apprentice in Wilson, and then I began my career in Washington. I worked in Washington for about 16 and a half years, and then I went back to Wilson as a shift commander, and then I'm currently the deputy chief of support services. I'm still a very active volunteer in Pinetown, North Carolina, and the Pinetown Volunteer Fire and EMS. We actually run EMS as volunteers too. So that's basically Doug Bissette.
I want you to know before Chief Steven steps up and gives his information. I had my wife try to pronounce your name, and she thought it was Bissette too. So, anyways, go ahead.
So it probably is Bissette. My grandmother, the matriarch of our family, who was a school teacher for a long, long time, had a lot of very successful students across the state. She said it was Bissette like kiss it.
I love it.
So that's where we got it from.
That's
Chief
awesome.
Roberson, go ahead.
Hey, glad to be with y'all. My name is Steven Roberson. I'm the current president for the North Carolina State Firefighters Association. Been in the fire service a little over 30 years. Proud to serve as the chief for the City of King Fire Department.
Very good. Well, thank you guys for both coming on. Doug and I have a long-standing history of jabbing each other anytime we see each other. It's just an Eastern thing that we do, and we love it, and it's a good time. So, anyways, thank you guys for both coming on. And speaking of giving jabs, that's kind of what the this month's topic is all about. In politics, that whether you're on the left side of the aisle, the right side of the aisle, it just comes with the nature of work that our folks in Raleigh do. They love to kind of jab at each other. And then next thing you know, we get thrown in the mix of that, right, guys? And so really what I want to kind of maybe start out with, we mentioned it in the opening, is that a lot of firefighters don't see themselves engaged in politics. And so I want both of you guys to answer this question. So for the firefighters that are watching this and they say, I stay out of politics, it doesn't affect me, what would you say to them, and why is it important for them to at least have a pulse on what's happening in Raleigh?
I think I would be the best way I know to kind of is whether you're a municipal, a county, a nonprofit, um, you know, you advocate for things, and in some way, advocation is also could be politicking for things. Politics is usually looked at from an elected official side of things, but even that firefighter going to a board of directors about something that fire department wants to do, they're politicking for that. They're trying to convince a group that has the power to either say yes or no to what they want, and they're advocating and for that. So, again, we think, you'd say the word politics, you immediately go to elected officials and politicians, local, state, federal. and I know that's kind of what we're here to talk about, but that's also a big theme you'll probably hear from Doug and myself is all politics are local, and so
Hmm.
um, they may not think they're in politics as far as from that in the fire service, but they, you know, there is politics with our business.
Yeah. How about you, Doug?
Oh, I would agree with that. Politics is around us, whether we think it's politics or not. It's already in our lane. It's already in what we're doing, our pay, our benefits, the cancer coverage that we already receive, or we got passed a few years ago. All of that was decided by a political move that the fire departments and the firefighters in the state of North Carolina made to get that done. You don't necessarily have to like this, but it's not something we can opt out of. The political side is something that it's a different fire that we're fighting. And, we have to work at it to keep making the service better.
A chief officer, when I was going through some leadership training, equated the political involvement much like cleaning and packing hose. Right? Everybody likes going to the fire. Everyone likes having that fun of riding that truck, but they hate the cleanup afterwards. And somebody basically said that that's kind of what being politically engaged is like doing. It's like cleaning and packing up hose. It's just part of the job that we have to do, and we have to understand the process. And so I think that's pretty key what you said there, Doug. So again, for one or both, if both of you guys want to answer this, why do you think the legislative day that we've been doing for some time now through the State Firefighters Association matters than most firefighters realize? And let me preface this for those that are listening. And if y'all have last year's stats, please share it. But we've been growing legislative day for as long as I can remember for an attendance perspective. But with more than 52,000, the number that show up that day is extremely small. But again, it continues to grow. So why do you think it matters more than what they realize?
Go ahead, Doug.
Oh, I was going to look up some numbers,
Oh,
but that's okay. I can answer it. Legislative day is important. It builds a relationship that should start local, just like we've already discussed. All things start local, but this is where your voice it sounds different to them. You're in their office, in their environment. They hear
Mm-hmm.
stats all day about fire departments, fire departments, fire departments. But when you have a real world story of what happens on the truck or what happens in the street, it makes a difference. That's what sticks. That's what they're hearing, a real life story that they may not be involved in when you're just talking to someone generically, but having that real life conversation with them about something that really happened, whatever your issue may be, and explaining how it affects you in the streets or on the call, especially in the rural districts of North Carolina. We serve a lot of rural areas, and that connection is missing. They may see them at their local fundraiser, they may see them, but having this opportunity to tell them in their setting and you know give their voice and their experiences, their real life experiences, really helps.
and I definitely agree with Doug on that. And it's also it's more than just being there when we want or we need something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we the cancer bill and the passage of the cancer legislation is a one that sticks out to me. Is the next year we really had legislative things, we were working on, we were monitoring the bills that were being introduced. But when we came to legislative day, we didn't have, that year just a big hot button item per se, kind of like the year before we had cancer and we got cancer passed. Um, we we our focus that was just go in and thank them for what they're doing, thank them for their time. They did choose to run. I mean, it's not like applying for a
Right.
job. I mean, they volunteered to do this, and um, so they kind of have some of the same qualities and traits that we do. Is, when we volunteer for our fire service, they're volunteering to serve their community, their district. So, that one, so we don't need to be there just when we need or want something. We need to be there so that we can have that open line of communication, build that relationship. I always tell anyone I meet with legislatively, is there anything we can do for you? It shouldn't,
Mm.
open up that two-way avenue so that, if they need something from us, they, let them contact us. And I've been contacted about certain bills that, they've, like, what is this going to have a fire service implication? You
Mm.
know, um, something that we may not see in the fire service. And so that definitely, I believe is a reason why legislative day matters is have getting that personal relationship built. So when they're not in Raleigh, you can contact them, in their home.
Yeah. I think that piece, and we're going to talk about building a relationship. Um, well, we can talk about it now. Um, having that relationship with your legislators out of Raleigh, when they're not in session, is super important, right? Like you said, when they show up to your fundraiser, or if you invite them to an opening, a push-in ceremony, whatever it is in your community, so they can see the return on investment of the local tax dollars and the local things that are happening in their communities. Those are important. But I mean, I've gotten to the point to where over the last probably 5 or 6 years, one of my House of Representative members, he shows up at local high school athletic games, and the ones where my son competes in, and we talk. We sit beside each other. We've established a relationship. And when my wife was running the scoreboard at baseball and I wasn't down there, he called me. He said, "Hey, where are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm just up top. Do you need for me to come down?" And he's like, "No, I just didn't see you." And the reason for that is because, to your point, Chief, when there is a bill, and I think I saw the other day, and I haven't checked yesterday, I think I saw there was either a House bill or a Senate bill that was like 1,100. There's a lot for them to keep up with. And when they see
Yeah.
something that comes to the floor, they may text you. They just may randomly send a text and say, "Hey, how is this going to affect the fire service?" And for those who don't know, we'll get into this in a second. There is an opportunity where they may have to vote in line with their party. And we won't get into that, but in its entirety, before it gets to that point, they may want to advocate either pro or for or against based off of your input. And man, what kind of value should we feel that they're wanting to do that? And that all starts because of that relationship.
You're exactly right. And I'm sorry to jump in, but like
No, go ahead.
this is where we say that politics is local. Like it
Yes.
starts at home. It starts like your example, your representative calling and asking you like, "Hey, what do I need to know about this?" They can explain that, "Hey, this is going to vote this way," or we've had people tell us before like, "Hey, I understand that bill's in there and y'all are concerned about it, but it's not going nowhere." Like they know it's not going
Right.
anywhere, so they'll tell it. Like there's been a couple that have come up in the last few years, and we'll start questioning it, ask questions about it, and they'll be like, "Don't worry about it, it's not going nowhere." So the Firefighters Association doesn't say anything about the bill. We just kind of let it lie, and people were like, "Oh, y'all should, we need to stop that. We need to stop." Well, we already know the answer, so
Right.
we've made that relationship. Um, uh, you alluded to you and I making jabs at each other. It's because of a relationship we have. Steven and I have a
That's
relationship
right.
that's very, very similar. Well, we can pick up the phone and call each other, and we got questions on things. We want those relationships with those House of Representatives and senators in uh, that same scope, because we want them to be able to pick up the phone and call and say, "Hey, is this going to pass or is this not going to pass?" Or if I put this language in a bill, will it slide through and nobody notice it, or will there be an issue with it? and having that relationship is where we really are getting traction and getting stuff done.
And let's go back to that real quick. So, those relationships, how should one start it, I guess, or what have been your keys to success, right? So they're going to come to Raleigh, and maybe it's something that they are going to start. And I'm going to give an example. I last year, and this is kind of a keys to success kind of conversation as well, and we can dive into that here in just a second. But let's stay with the relationship piece. So they don't know that House of Representative member. They don't know the senator, and they're trying to just get their foot in the door. And we're already in the short session. It's running 100 miles an hour. What's a way that they can engage with that person and kind of invite them? Should they invite them for coffee? What should they do? What do you guys think?
I know one thing I do is I got a new senator last term, or she's in her first term. Um, I did a congratulations email, looking forward to working with you. Opened up that, just right there, because like you said, you just mentioned, you saw, I think you're right. We're up on the Senate side. I think we're on the 1100 of bills. I mean, that's why they have staff, because the staff keep them updated on, what they're, but, um, and then, depending on your department, invite them to things, those are key, you know, uh, whether it be a fundraiser, a meeting night, an event that's going on in your community, a Christmas tree, send a personal invite, reach out to them. I think opening up those, and then keep the lines open. My
Mm-hmm.
representatives get monthly emails about our department activity and what's going
Mm-hmm.
on in our department. And it's got a little calendar of events going on. So if they want to drop by, I think that has been definitely one way. I usually get a little acknowledgement back from both of them about appreciate the info, and stuff. So I think that's maybe a good starter,
Yeah,
especially if you don't know who they are at all.
I love it. How about you, Doug?
Oh, I would agree. Relationships, just be speaking to them, see them, acknowledge them. You know, after we had the cancer win, we gave out those gold leaf helmet fronts that had all their names on them, and that was like the greatest token. And I enjoy going on legislative day and seeing people handing out challenge coins to them, just a simple challenge coin, and they love it. I've seen people go in there with shirts like, "Oh, that's my fire department that's bringing me this. Those are my firefighters.
Yeah.
Those are the people that serve me." And when you hear them say that, you know that that fire department has won the race. That fire department has won that House of Representative or Senator over, and you know that if we need something, they're going to call that person. And that's how that relationship is going to go a long way. They're going to get a lot of traction in Raleigh based off that, and it's a local thing.
I recently was talking to some members of the Fire Marshals Association, which I'm involved with as well. And one of the things that I had mentioned to them was I said, go back and subscribe to your House of Representatives or your senator's newsletter and just watch while they're in session and see, specifically in May, the busiest session, and see whose picture usually makes it in their newsletter. It will be the firefighters. And that same day and that same time period, there will be multiple groups that will visit. And there are a lot more powerful groups than us. I mean, that's just a fact, and that fact may not be fair to us, but it's a fact. And there are folks a lot more politically and more monetarily engaged than we are. And we'll just leave those off the table for a second, but say they don't make it to the newsletter. We do. And I think that because of those relationships, because we're there, those matter. And to your point, Chief Roberson, when we gave out those fronts, I can remember the year that I handed mine out. That photo was, excuse me, was in each one of those three newsletters when we presented them specifically, because they valued that photo and that representation. And to this day, every one of those three that presented it, it is on their bookshelf somewhere because they appreciate and value that more than
You'd
anything.
be
So
you'd be amazed. You'd be amazed at the number of times I've seen it, like with Spectrum News or something in the background when they're interviewing them in their office. That's Shield, but it is in the background, and so you're exactly right. I mean, um, you know, the trust we built within the community. Um, that's some more working in collaboration with our politicians. They know we built community trust. Fire service has, and so they're just showing that partnership.
yeah, and I don't think any one of us said it. We talked about inviting them to these community events, but also giving them the opportunity to speak if
Right.
that's
Yeah, that's right.
politically
Yeah.
allowed. Yeah, sometimes they just want the platform to be able to speak and talk about what they're doing in their community or trying to do for their community, and that would then be reciprocated. So kind of going back to the days of the actual, what does the day look like, and we'll get to that here in just a second, when we talk about the keys for success for that day. But in that moment, I can remember trying to meet with a member, House Representative member, and I was told point blank, look, they're in committee. They're going from one committee meeting to the next. And I showed up, I tried to show up about 15 minutes early to my appointments. And so that way, if their committee gets done early or they have a shift, I'm not the one holding up. As the saying goes, I try not to be the dime that holds up the dollar. So I try to be there. And the person will say, hey, you're early. And I go, I know, I just want to be accessible to them. But this committee member or this representative, their meeting ran long. And I was told, hey, they've got 3 minutes. So you got to plan your elevator speech that day. Whatever the agenda is, that's the worst thing you can do. You got 3 minutes. And when we walked in, we sat down. His aide brought him a cup of coffee. He never took a drink. He was there for literally those 3 minutes. His aide came and tapped him on the shoulder, and he had to walk to his next committee meeting. And there was somebody outside walking with him from that meeting to his next appointment for his next year. And I jokingly said to the aide, I said, how many cups of coffee do you make for him? She said 7. On average, when he's here, I'll make 7 cups of coffee, and he may take 3 sips the whole day that I may make for him. And so I say that to kind of start off the keys for success is don't be offended if they don't have time, because again, that's why their local relationship matters. And number 2 is get your elevator speech ready. So either one of y'all kind of take us through what legislative day looks like and what are those keys to those successes beside those 2 points right there.
Well, I think legislative day starts 100% before May 20th. You said it you said the word appointments. Make those appointments. If depend on your level of relationship with your representative or senator, message them. Hey, I'm going to be in Raleigh on the 20th. What's your schedule like? You know, trust me, they can see their schedule. They know where they're going to be and where they're not going to be. They don't have to rely on their staff for that. But reach out to their staff, get the appointment. Um, you know, Doug is a legislative chair and has got a big task of filtering through every bit of legislation that comes through on that calendar. For him to prepare, in his committee to prepare everything. But then, make plans, invite people to legislative day. Bring groups from your area to legislative day. You would be surprised. I mean, like I said, our numbers are growing, but we still have areas that nobody from those districts are there, and that's who they want to hear from.
Mm.
I love the mountains. I love the coast. Some of my favorite places to go. I would definitely not mind going to see the representative from Hyde County because I love Ocracoke. I love to fish out there, but I don't live there. He wants to talk to those
I do.
representatives. You do, and you can get there quicker by boat. But you know, there's a lot of pre-work, that needs to be done, by each person attending. It from that standpoint. I'll let Doug kind of comment on like that pre-work, even from the legislative committee side, going into legislative day.
Well, I would say just be prepared. Like Chief Robertson said, be have a schedule. Be know what the priorities are. Go ahead as soon as possible. Now would be a good time to get on that person's calendar because, like you said, Brian, you may have 3 minutes. You need to be prepared for that. But you need to know that you're going to be on a time constraint. So don't have a long speech. Make sure that you're prepared on the front side. Stay on message, whatever you want to present, make sure you stay on task with that. If we get passionate about things, sometimes we can tend to ramble on and, I'm a passionate person, so I understand that wholeheartedly. But just be locked in on the priorities of what we want to do so that we have one voice from the Firefighters Association, the Fire Chiefs Association, the fire marshals, the fire instructors, everybody. We should come out on May 20th as one whole voice.
Yeah.
Again, be local. How does it react to Hyde County? How does it react to the mountains of North Carolina? From Murphy to Manio, how is this going to affect us? And then, have a plan on how you're going to follow up. If we want to be successful, we can't just go talk to them one day a year. If you want to be a good Christian, you can't go to church on Easter and expect it to work the whole year long. That
Right.
ain't how it works. But it's the same here. Have a relationship. Don't be afraid to talk to them when you need something, and it's not May 20th. Don't be afraid to talk to them. Invite them to your things. We gave a whole lot of good tips on just being involved. And we like fires when we're fully involved. We like to go to work and things like that, but we got to be fully involved in the fire service to move the service forward. And to how we do that is we're fighting a different fire. We're being involved with these legislative representatives to get them involved and get them involved in what we're seeing, so that when they see a statistic from something that isn't right, like, well, that's not what our fire department says it's like, and then they can start asking questions, and then that tide is going to turn.
Let me go back. Like I sometimes do, I went down a rabbit hole. Doug, what was the number of attendees last year?
I never found it.
Okay.
Nah, I couldn't find it. Yeah.
If you've ever been to the Quorum Center, they have an event room, and last year I want to say it was pretty well full. And I think that room holds somewhere between 250, 275. Does that number sound horseshoes and hand grenade close? Does that sound about right?
My number in my head was 220.
Okay. So I think the room holds 250, 275, and it was pretty close. So 220 was probably right.
Yeah, and I do know that we've outgrown 3 different spaces. So, we're growing every year. But now, to say there was 220 people in there last year would be a good, accurate description. But remember, we had a committee meeting that started at 8:30, and we started at 8 o'clock. So we lost several people last year that went to that committee meeting.
Yeah. And before we dive into what does legislative day, I want us to talk through the actual day itself. What can people expect? I want to go back to, kind of those steps for success. So I'm going to explain because Chief Roberson gave some good examples. So as soon as they go into session, which this is the short session, so they went in April, I go ahead and email their aide. So I don't email just the representative or the senator. If you go to their bio, just search their bio and include the representative and their aide because they're very busy. And I email everybody. And then also because of how sensitive, especially the short session is, that's hard to say. But I ask if it would be easier. I want to be sensitive to their time. I ask if it's appropriate if we could do a joint meeting. And usually what that does is number one is it makes it easier on myself. And then Chief Roberson gave a great example. If you're going with a group, collectively attend as a group. Number one is it gives them that money shot of the whole community, right? In their newsletter, they're going to have a whole band of firefighters standing around them that are rallying around them, supporting them, or even just advocating to them, not always just supporting them, but advocating to them. And again, it shows unity. And kind of to Doug's point, and that's really where I wanted to hone in on it. It's one voice. It's not just one firefighter. It's that person. And if you're doing that, I would say elect this spokesperson in the room. Say, hey, who's gonna come in here and speak kind of on our community's behalf, our county's behalf. So if you have a countywide association, if you have something like that, try to get that one person to speak. And going back to the time when you message that aide, just tell them, say, look, we just want to be put on the radar, coordinate, and understand that we'll check back 2 to 3 days in advance, understanding that committee sessions may pivot, things may change, but this is how many we're expecting. This is when we'd like to meet, and this is how we'd like to connect. And what ends up happening is I'll follow up with a text message to that person and say, hey, I sent an email. Feel free to flex based off of what you need. As always, we'd love to see you. And they usually, what ends up happening is they send me a text back that says, hey, Brian, it'll be a priority. We'll make it happen. And again, it's that personal note that really loops back and advocates for what's needed. I don't know if y'all's are any different. Before we talk about the day of, do y'all do anything any different than that, or had any experiences that were not successful if you did something like that?
I would say when I first started getting involved I thought we needed to do it from 8 to 12 because, you had the meeting and then you had to come back for lunch, and then, it says leave after that. I would keep in mind that you can meet after lunch, or you could bring them to lunch. They got to eat lunch. It's a way to get a free lunch. You don't have to pay for it. Those are options, think outside of the box. It doesn't have to be what has always been done. Make it memorable.
Right.
Make it work for them, but make it memorable. And at the end of the day, they're looking for that picture. They're looking to say that I got all these departments that came and visited me, all these local communities, and I'm serving them.
We've even come up the night before and had dinner before with folks, again, because the day of, it is a lot, right? When you're in your fancy Class A's, excuse me, and things are moving and shaking, everybody's going 100 miles an hour, the opportunities don't present itself for that true open dialogue that you need. And so those give itself a different opportunity. Chief Roberson, what does start to finish? What does that day look like at the 30,000 foot overview? How do we start the day, and then how do we kind of officially finish it as NCSFA?
Gotcha. Obviously, we talked about there's a tremendous amount of pre-work that goes into this. With the legislative committee, with their nose down, hard working to look at the bills, monitor the bills, see what bills are going on, determine what bills we want to introduce. But the day of, we things move fast over in the legislature. Like you gave one of the best examples of, like, I had an appointment 15 minutes early, and when it was all said and done, I had 3 minutes. So things move fast. So we start the day 8 o'clock at the Quorum Center downstairs in their conference room. We have handouts. We have locations of the representative senator's office that a lot of people don't realize they're in two different buildings: the legislative building, the legislative office building. Short walks apart, but they depending on how big your area is, you could be zigzagging those two locations all morning. Pass those handouts, welcome everybody. We invite representatives to come speak, and they are very excited to come speak to us. So we allow them a few minutes to speak. Things typically in the legislature get kicked off about 9 o'clock, a little after 9 in the morning. So they have a few minutes before they have to get back over. Occasionally, we've had some other prestigious guests stop by. The governor has stopped by a few times. So obviously, we gave them podium time, which we were excited to have them there and to see those firefighters there in Raleigh. And then we pass the baton over to our legislative chair. This year it'll be Doug, and Doug's going to kind of give us our battle rhythm marching orders, so that everybody understands um, that what we as a collective fire service are going after. But I know we've kind of bounced back and forth on the local thing, but we always remind them, hey, you've got local things you probably need to talk to them about as well.
Mm-hmm.
Seize the moment, seize the opportunity, talk to them about those local things. And then we try to do a picture. We've done it in various locations this year. Our picture is set to be somewhere on the at the legislature building. I think don't hold me, don't fact check me on this, but if I'm not mistaken, we may be the last group that was ever allowed a picture on the red carpet. Um, so we're pretty proud of that. I'm sure some other people have probably gotten it since then, but we take that picture and then there we're off. To meeting our appointments, catching our legislators. Some of us are ducking into committee meetings because our bills are being heard that day, because the fire service needs to be in Raleigh more than on legislative day. But we meet with our legislators, with our partners, the Chiefs Association. We provide and some sponsors. We provide a lunch for our firefighters and fire service members at the Quorum Center. And that kind of wraps the day up around lunchtime for us, even though, like Doug said, those meetings can go well beyond lunch. But that's kind of a real fast look at what legislative day is like the day of.
Nice. Well, I want to go into really more kind of leave legislative day and talk more holistically about what really happens in the legislative process, if you will. So that way people can have a better understanding. We kind of hinted onto some of this stuff in the beginning, and I want to circle back to it. Basically is, we've heard a lot here recently about short session, long session, state budget, right? Like, oh, we don't have a state budget. We're the only state in the union that doesn't have a budget. So, I'm gonna let Doug answer this one. What is the difference between short and long session, and really why does it matter, and what happens behind the scenes that firefighters don't see in that legislative process? And I think you kind of mentioned it, like with, hey, we're just going to stay quiet because this one's not moving. So kind of take us through that.
Well, probably the first thing to know is the long session is generally where we get a budget. That's where we get a lot of major wins. We got cancer there. If we would have passed the budget last year, we would have got the pension increase. We're still hoping that we get that this year when the budget does pass. Along with some other things that we're, really hoping the increases in the types of cancer that count. Probably the short section, this is where we get tweaks done, little things slide through. We are looking to get some stuff there, but, generally in a short session, we don't get a whole lot of wins. Our thing is that in the short section, we're planning for the next long session. So we're trying to see how we can get on the front side of things, how we can make things happen. Basically, we want to be ready early. We don't want to be reactive. So, we're working as the legislative committee moves, we get a lot of bills that come through, a lot of bills. Like you said, there's already 1,100, I think, and there are at least 1,050, I know. So, when you see all of those, you want to know, obviously we can't read through every single one of them, but we do receive a lot of notifications from people in our areas, like, hey, we need to be mindful of this, we need to watch this. So, and everybody thinks we need to have be decisive one way or the other. Some things we can't stick our neck out and say, oh, we're going to support this, because if it goes the other way, well, it makes us look bad. But there is some times where we do get information from our communities. We reach out to our partners with the Chiefs Association, with the instructors, the hazmat, the fire marshals. We get all of those people. We get their influence. We're working with emergency managers to see what they think, so that when we come out, we have a unified voice, and there's more than just 55,000 firefighters speaking. It's all first responders. we've had some stuff go in before that the Sheriff's Association didn't like, and they basically blocked it, which is fine. Seeing how I see it now, I understand that. But I think there was some opportunity to have a conversation on the front side to explain it a little bit. And had we been more prepared on the front side, we probably would have slid that through also.
So let me go back if I can. So,
because I think I didn't answer your question.
No, you did. I think as a whole, but I wanna revisit maybe the short and long and say, what is the timetable for that? I know you explained what happens in those, but when do we historically see them start and finish so people understand the time crunches that are associated with those? Because I don't think people really understand what is a short session and what is a long session. You explain what happens in them, but why is there this big push? And why may people see more urgency in the short session than they do in the long session?
I know from my experience, I don't think there's definitive calendar dates.
Sure. Yeah.
But the short session, not to throw jazz, but we usually have a budget in
Right.
place. And again, not a jab throw, but there's usually already a budget in place. And a lot of times with the
Right.
short session, I always equated it to is that we're just tweaking the budget a little bit. It's a biennial budget. Some people might not even realize that they're really adopting a 2-year budget. So they're kind of coming in and tweaking a few things in the budget. But there's also bills that make crossover. That means they made it through a chamber um, in the long session, but may not have been completed at the close of the long session. And then they pick those bills up in the short session with the goal of trying to complete it. Because my understanding, and my brother from another brother, Doug, will tell me if we're wrong, because I think he's researching a little bit for us. Once the short session ends, it's a total reset. Everything is new again. So those bills that make crossover from long to short, are essentially, everything's scrapped and we're starting again with a long session.
So
Yeah,
that's
long
a
session is
perfect.
long session is an odd year, and short session is an even year. So long session generally starts around late January, and it ends somewhere in the summertime, June, July, August, even as late as September. And then the short session it generally starts at mid to late April, and ends in July, early July. So generally they're trying to be out of there by July 1st. So
Yeah. And Chief Roberson,
you're talking just a few months.
You teed up perfectly, or gave a great segue into crossover, because that was going to be one of my next questions is crossover. People don't realize it. So as you said, hey, some of these things did not carry over. What really is crossover? So for the bills that didn't happen, why is it that some make it and some don't? And what is that?
Um, I'll tell you how it was explained to me from my representative, because he gave me the best explanation of why. So a bill's introduced. It could be a bill about enacting, the state color is yellow, for example. But once a bill is introduced, I'm just using that as just a, you know, non-controversial example, is that once the bill is introduced, other things can be added to that bill as it travels through the bill process, going into committees. Things can be added to bills. And then, as my legislator put it to me, is when the bill is ready for the final votes in that chamber, um, um, he's got to look at the totality of the bill and what is it best for his or her district that they represent. So it could be a great thing for the fire service, but the other things I'll just call it the baggage in the bill that got added along the way. Those things overall for that district that he or she represents, they can't support. And he gave me the best explanation, that I've heard, because once it passes the House or the Senate, crosses over, the Senate is adding things. The budget's a primary example. Whoever is the author, of the budget, once it crosses over, that other chamber's got their budget philosophy too. So that's what the budget debate, for example. But that's one of the ways I can describe why a good bill to us doesn't get passed.
Well,
Yeah,
go ahead, Doug.
last year, an example of that last year is House Bill 675 was a bill that required all EMS personnel to become nationally registered. And that bill was filed in the House and got sent to a committee. And a lot of people were asking why come, what were we going to do, what we were going to do. And it kind of just died in the committee. It's still technically a bill, but it didn't make crossover. So really it's dead. So we knew it was dead early on. We were concerned about it. We did have some discussions about it, but once we found out that it was basically put in this committee that had no funding and was going to die in that committee, we kind of let it lie. And once we realized it didn't make crossover, we knew we were good.
Yeah, and I think we can kind of go back and pick up where when those representatives call us, all representatives serve on some committees. They represent, on several, some chair, some co-chair, and then some just sit. And I don't want to say just sit, but they sit, and they don't necessarily have a lot of, I don't want to say power, but they do that. Those positions come with power, with seniority, and the longer you've been there, those do matter. And then daily, while they're in session, they have what's called a conference before they actually go into session as the whole House or the whole Senate, and they will review the bills that are moving forward. And so you may get a text message about midday from your representative to say, what do you think about this bill? And a lot of times what's happening is if you have not engaged your representative or been vocal, is they may not sit on a committee and they may not have done their research, but they're hearing something and they want your opinion. So that way, when they go to conference, they know how to speak or not speak based off of their party's opinion of how to vote on this bill. Again, with 1,100 of these things coming at them, they can't sit there and read pages and pages and pages. So they want to go to those subject matter experts. And to Doug and Steven's point is that's where we have the benefit of having legislative committees in all of our associations to look to see how it impacts our associations. So, for those who are going, I don't know that it really affects me. It does affect you because, again, that's what keeps that conversations going. So to your point, Doug, you had said, it may die in a committee. A lot of times you'll see when you read the bill, it will say refer to rules, and rules is kind of where it goes. And then I kind of explained it to somebody this way. Rules is kind of like jail. Sometimes you get out, sometimes you don't. But one of the most powerful people is the rules chair, because they decide along with the head of the House or the Senate whether or not it leaves rules. Do y'all want to add or take away from any of that before we move on?
I would say if it goes to rules, basically, you're going to know if it comes out pretty fast.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Steven.
I was just going to say, that I don't think we probably, I know I didn't until I started getting involved at the regional level and going to legislative day and tracking bills. Committees are important.
Very.
Very important, because it's filed, it's read on the House floor, and it's automatically sent to a committee. attending those committee meetings are important. Being prepared to possibly speak at those committee meetings are very important. I've literally seen bills withdrawn because of committee meeting
Yep.
comments that were made, that representatives have, and then you also have that opportunity being there, that they, those representatives can come talk to you. They see you. They're in small conference rooms. It's a lot smaller. The other advantage to committee attendance is they stream those meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I've texted my representative in the middle of committee meetings, and we've got a good relationship. He jokes back. He said, "You really must be bored today," you know, uh, as far as that goes. But the committees drive the bills.
Right.
Um, you know, um, I think that's probably the side that we maybe don't educate our fire service about is it, they see the votes on the floor, but it gets after it leaves the floor after the first reading, it gets back on the floor through committee. Just like you said, with the rules being I guess the way we look
Gatekeeper.
at the gatekeeper of it. The committee is a crucial element to this that I know I didn't learn until I got more involved. Uh,
One of the
I,
things
I,
that
I'd like to.
go ahead, Doug.
Oh, I'd like to add exactly to what Steven's saying. So once it goes to a committee, you know, we look and see who's the chair of that committee, and then the legislative committee will say, "Hey, who do we know in that area of this
Mm-hmm.
specific person that can help us?" So,
Right.
like, do we know a chief in Haywood County that can contact this representative, or do we know whose representative is from Franklin County? Like, hey, secondly, like being involved in the region or the area of the region, like, okay, like, hey, I know that I got an issue and it's coming from Haywood County. Like, oh, we know somebody there. We're going to pick up the phone and call them, and that person's going to, cut it off at the pass. When we
Mm-hmm.
do that, a lot of times that happens, and it happens so quietly that people don't really understand it. Because most of the people in the fire service are for the service. They're not looking for name recognition. They're not
Mm-hmm.
looking for to be the person with, oh, I did this or I did that. Generally, when we're working in the fire service, we do it quietly, and it just happens, and people don't understand it. And I think that speaks volumes when you see the fire service moving quietly. If you see us being loud or me, we're not. That's not the fire service. That's not the fire service in North Carolina that I've experienced. We're not singular. We're moving together as one, and that's the way we got to keep doing. We can't be singular.
I just want to go back. I couldn't agree more with those sentiments, but I do want to go back and say to the point of the committees. Um, I think it's very important for folks to realize in those committee meetings, depending on the political environment, you may not have an opportunity to speak that day. And if you do, you may only get 30 seconds, a minute, 3 minutes, whatever. So if you think legislative day is hard to cover all those bills, imagine if you're pro or against a bill. So to that point, that relationship matters even more. Now, going back to what Doug said, if you're not engaged with your legislator and all of a sudden you get a phone call from Chief Roberson who says, "Hey, it's Chief Roberson, president of the State Firefighters Association, and I'd like for you to call your legislator." And you go, I can't, I don't know them.
Yeah.
No offense, but you've kind of, I don't want to put this pressure on anybody, but I'll say it. I'm not on the board. You've kind of let the fire service down, because again, what they need is they need that relationship to be present. And you may not be able to attend on May 20th, right? And I get it, but you do have an opportunity to walk up to those legislators, do the invitations that we've talked about before, have the conversation, and establish those relationships in your communities. And I'm saying that as saying it's not up to the county fire marshals in its entirety. It could be that you're the volunteer fire chief in that community,
and you don't have anybody to answer to but your board, right? So whether you're paid position or not, you have the mobility. If you're a firefighter in that community, you have the mobility to do that as someone who is a constituent of that person. So, and it's not all just benefits related. Before we hit record, we were talking single stairwell. We kept that bill at bay. It wasn't all just benefit related. It was about firefighter safety and occupant safety. And that was one of those ones where the fire service as a whole was united, and where at the front end, it looks good because it says, hey, in the name of affordable housing. And that was bipartisan support. But behind the scenes, we said, this has some very hard safety implications. This does not need to come up. And it went and it died and in a committee. And I think it kind of speaks to Doug's point. There were some phone calls that occurred behind the scenes that helped to make sure that didn't happen. So I think those are key
fireworks
things.
same way. Fireworks are the same way.
Fireworks same way. I love it. Hey, a couple more questions. I know we've been running long here, but I think it's all great conversations. So for those, how does the fire service become more impactful and unified moving forward when it comes to legislation? What would you say? What are those two final thoughts from you guys? How do we become more unified and more impactful?
You got to get involved. Majority of the counties have some type of association, whether it be Chief Association or Firefighter Associations. We have 3 regional associations that meet quarterly. A lot of information is passed through those regional associations. But there are other associations. You mentioned Fire Instructor Association. We've got the Fire Marshal Association. We've got the Investigators Association. All those associations could, or will have legislation. Obviously, the Fire Marshal Association, which you're very involved with yourself. I mean, it's annually. Look at what happened to Indiana. But you've got to get involved. And there's I started at that local level, bringing it all the way up, but involvement so that you are educated about what's going on, not only legislatively, but in the fire service for North Carolina.
Doug, how about you?
And I would say being involved may not look like going to a regional meeting. It may not look like going to the Safer Conference, but it may being knowledgeable enough to know who to pick up the phone and call. Hey, I don't like this. I saw this came out yesterday. I don't like it. Instead of just saying we don't like it, knowing who to call to that can get it taken care of, or get like, hey, we don't like this. I'll give you an example, a real life example. We were in a meeting yesterday, Steven and I were, and we were talking about some things, and there was some discussion on it may not be that bad. It may not affect a certain group of people. And then the, so to say, leader of that group actually called after the meeting and said, hey, I really don't like this. This is going to be a big deal for us. This chief may not be involved at the regional level, but he knew who to call. And that phone call spoke volumes, because like it kind of said, okay, we're getting some differences of opinions, and we got to really be engaged and talk through this to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the fire service. Our motto is every firefighter every day, and we're concerned about them. So being involved is key. Being involved might not mean making every regional meeting, but it means knowing who to call when we need something. That we're in turn are going to call that chief back and say, hey, can you help us with this? Can you help us get through all this to navigate this from your viewpoint, because your view is valuable. And he is, in my opinion, he's involved now. He may not be visibly involved, but we got to be on the same page. We're the fire service of North Carolina. We're not the North Carolina State Firefighters Association. We're not the Fire Marshals Association. We're not the Fire Chiefs Association. If we have a mixed message, that's nothing but noise. We need to be one single message, and take that one single unity message and influence the fire service in North Carolina and work together.
I love it. Before we go to my last question, Engageify, that is the platform for the association to kind of push legislative matters out. How can folks sign up for that? Either one of y'all chime in with that.
Go ahead, Mr.
There's
Legislative.
there's a link on our website. There is a direct link on if you go to ncsfa.com and you pull up. Hold on one second. I'm gonna tell you exactly what to do.
Well, while it does that, kind of tell me what it does, Engageify does while you get there.
So if you Gageify is just something similar to Constant Contact that sends out legislative bills. So we'll send out like, we support this, we oppose this, or we're neutral on this, and there may be all the bills from the fire service listed, and you can see them, and then you can choose. You can see our platform, or excuse me, our stance on them: oppose, neutral, or support. And then it'll have all the ones that have been submitted, and then you can kind of see where we're going, and it'll give you a brief synopsis of the bill. But if you'll go to the ncsfa.com and click on legislative updates, it'll say Engageify portal, and that right there is where you just click on to log in to Engageify to get notified.
All right. Last question for both of you before we move on to Bucket Brigade, which I know you're both eager to get to. What would you say to someone who's on the fence about attending Legislative Day? They've never attended it, and maybe they're a volunteer, which is a lot of our fire service, and they got to take a day off, and they're balancing between personal time with family and making that sacrifice. Why should they attend?
I would say you just need to go one time and experience it. You'll see really, really fast that the decisions that affect your department are being made in Raleigh, whether you're there or not. So if you go and be in the room, be in the arena and be willing to take a stand for your department, goes a lot further than sitting back at your department complaining about the people in Raleigh. Go one time, make that relationship, and make the relationship with someone else from your community that's going, that you can be more unified as a group for a specific area, region, county, any of the above.
I would add too. I mean, I feel like the legislators work for you, and I'm referencing to you as the person attending. They're there for you. I mean, and their community. As the fire service, we're the heartbeat of the community. We probably got a pulse on our community better than any other. So they they can definitely build a lot from that.
I love it. That's good stuff. Well, hopefully for those who are listening, we will see you in Raleigh, May 20th, 8 a.m. at the Quorum Center. If you need the address, it's all on NCSFA's website. You can go get details for that. Also, the social media channels for North Carolina State Firefighters Association for more details. All right, it's time for Bucket Brigade. Now, everybody's going to be looking forward to this. I'm sure y'all probably, as a board, got together after your first quarterly meeting after the Carolina Fire Watch got started and probably made fun of Barry for his 5-finger pour or something like that. I'm sure that one came up in some kind of conversation. So be careful what number you pick is all I'm going to say. So the question is, who's going to go first? Does the president get to pick the first number?
Absolutely.
So for those who's, again, their first time watching, the Bucket Brigade is this mass challenge. So you get 5 questions, and there's 2 people here. So we're basically going to get through 10 questions, 10 different questions. They're each going to pick a number 1 through 100. And they're going to be 5 different questions. And the goal is to try to answer these as quickly as they can. All right, Chief Roberson, you get to go first. Number 1 through 100.
30.
30. All right. First question is, What's one thing you always misplace?
My phone, because my son, I carried a phone in a holster, OtterBox holster and everything. And my son, he's like, "You dad, you need to get rid of that thing, blah, blah." I can't keep up with my phone to save my life. So thank you, Carson. I appreciate you. I listen to you, but yeah, I can't keep up with my phone to save my life.
So I gotta
Just
ask, do you
Just find a
Do you-
phone anywhere.
do you do the Find My, or if you got an Apple Watch, do you do the little locate button?
So yeah, as I am walking across the bay or leaving the house, my phone, you're right, my watch is going off, and it's like you've left your phone behind, and I'm, just makes me think of son every time.
I love it. Okay, Doug, next, you're up.
Apparently, we're doing station numbers, so 74.
74. Good God, that's a lot.
I'm
number.
leaving you a number. Better know which one that is, Doug, or I'll take it from you.
I'm on it.
A time.
I'll do mine. You do yours.
A time you were completely caught off guard.
Time I was completely caught off guard. It's kind of tough to catch me off guard. When I turned 40, my wife told me we were going to eat at Waffle House, which, if you know my son and I, that's our favorite restaurant. So we were really excited, and my neighbor called me, and said he needed some help at the shop, which is kind of behind our house. And when I went back there, we had a birthday party. So I was really caught off guard because my wife had planned a small get-together for my 40th birthday, and I had no idea. So I was really looking forward to Waffle House, and we had a really nice meal. So
I was going to say, well, did you end up getting Waffle House at some point for your 40th?
Not maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know that we went again until my son's birthday, which is May 20th, actually. And when he goes, he thinks he's got to sit at the bar, like, old school. So it is what it is. But yeah, we get it from time to time.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, in the big town of Pinetown, is there a Waffle House, or you got to make a drive to town?
We got to drive to town to Washington. The only thing we got in Pinetown is we got a Target, Dollar General, and a Walmart, Dollar or Family Dollar, and then we got the meat farm. So hey, we got our own butcher shop.
Well, I was going to say, if you got a Target, my wife, that's all she needs. All right, yeah. Chief Roberson.
It's Dollar General.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, if you
got a Target, I hear you, man.
Y'all have moved up.
I gave a reference to both of them. I'm
going to start taking that right off of 64 to your house then.
Be waiting.
All right, Chief Roberson, next number.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and do it. 99.
All right. What's your I'll never forget this moment? I'll never forget this.
Oh, my God. Oh man, there's a lot of things. I've got to say, I'll never forget my wedding. That was an awesome time.
That's a good, safe husband answer.
Yeah.
So for the wife that's gonna watch this later, yeah, right. She's gonna watch it. Maybe this will be a magic clip. How many years? Let's get you off guard. How many years?
No, it'd be 25 this year, and that's kind of why it's kind of we've been talking about, like, and that's saying a lot in this day and time.
100%. 100%.
So yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
There you go. All right, Doug, number 2.
If he did 99, I'm going to do 100.
Well,
There's a reason behind that. There's a reason behind that.
Were you going to tell it?
Steven's the 99th person to be the president of the State Firefighters Association, and
you'll be
all goes like this. That's right.
You'll be the 100. Okay, I like it.
Chris Wyatt does not like that, but you go count the names on the plaque.
Okay. This question is perfect for you, just like the 100. Okay, so a moment that perfectly sums up your personality.
A moment.
Pick one. Pick one.
Oh, last week at FDIC, we ran into our friends from the Cool Fireman podcast, and we immediately started talking, and we all had the exact same thought. Man, We're missing somebody in this group. Let's take a picture and send it to him. And you froze.
If you're not jabbing, what are you doing? Right?
Hey, we missed you, Brian. We missed you.
I know you did. I know you did. Like a bad case of gout.
No, I don't even know what that is. I'm too young for gout.
Oh yeah. I hear you. All right, Chief Roberson, let me get your third.
All right, 15.
15. All right, let me slide up here to the top. Number 15. What's something you wish people ask you more about? He's getting all like the deep thought questions.
Well, you got some deep questions right there. I don't know. People ask me more about. I don't know. That's a good one. Because I seem to get asked a lot of things, So, probably about just I don't know, just about why I continue to want to serve and be involved. I will say I get told I'm you sure are involved in a lot of things, but I never really get asked why
Why?
and stuff. Yeah, why?
That's probably a good answer. I like that. I mean,
Yeah.
because that is a lot. If those who serve the most usually are involved the most, and those who expect the most are involved the least. And I said what I said, so it is what it is. All right, Doug,
good
how about
answer.
you?
12.
12. Okay, a friend or a trend you just don't get. A trend you just don't get. Oh, I got one. I got an answer for that.
Well, let's hear it.
I don't understand this whole 6-7 thing that kids do. That's what I was going to say.
I was thinking the same thing.
I don't understand this 6-7 thing.
Yeah.
Look, I got a 10-year-old son. I'll bring him in here and see if he can explain it for us.
Well, I'll say bring him on, but we'll save that for after the show. But what is your trend that you don't get?
A trend that I don't get. Oh man, I guess the 6-7 took from me. I don't really know. I guess I would say the trend of liking the Yankees. I'm a Red Sox fan, so I don't know how people can like the Yankees, even though my wife is a Yankees fan.
Okay.
They talk about all those World Series. None since we've been alive.
No, I hear you. I thought you were going to say pistol grips on fog nozzles or something like that.
Oh,
that would set the internet on fire.
We've about fixed that one. There is a use for a pistol grip. Hang it on a rafter when you're working in the attic. So everything's got its use.
There you go.
I guess you could say fog nozzles, but I'm out on that too. So
there you go. All right, Chief Roberson, what's your number 4?
81.
81. Man, you're making me go all over this list here. All right, what's your this is peak adulthood moment?
My God.
Peak adulthood.
Oh, shoo. Could have been the echo stress test I had yesterday. A 40 in general. The 40 decade has been like, this must be adulthood right here. 40's been an interesting time period for me, and I'm on the tail end of it. So I'm hoping the 50s may be better.
Well, don't say that, because I'm right at the middle. So I'm with you. I'm with you as far as like the 40s of just everything happening at one time, and you get all these different things happen in your life. I like it. Doug, what about you? What's your fourth question?
32.
32. A piece of advice you ignored but shouldn't have.
When we were at the QVC fire, one of our senior engineers told me to know my body. And what he meant was I was going to take some hose up a ladder and a couple of bundles. And he was like, let me just bring the ladder down to you. And I remember him saying that. And I thought, man, I can do this. This is nothing. And then when he got to the top, he said, told you. Come right on the speaker and said, told you. So I probably should have listened a little bit more to him, because he was I was not quite 40 and he was in his 40s, so he knew what I was going to be experiencing, even though I thought I didn't know that. But yeah, know your body. So I guess that kind of alludes to what Steven just said.
Was you out of breath?
How long?
I was
did,
out of
how
breath. BREF.
long? How long did you feel it for?
I don't know. There was a lot going on there, so I think I only felt it for maybe 30 minutes, but my body probably felt it for 2 or 3 days, months, maybe. I don't know.
2 or 3 days, months. I love it. All right, last one, Chief Roberson.
I can tell you, as a live burn instructor, I feel it for a lot more days than I used to.
Amen.
So.
Okay, very good. Chief Roberson, last question.
38.
38. Most random compliment you've ever gotten?
Oh, me. Most random compliment I've ever gotten. I don't get many. I get talked about a lot, I know, but I don't get yeah, man, I'm drawing a blank on that one. I don't know. I don't
Doug, if you had to give Chief Roberson a compliment right now, what would it be? I know you could probably drum up a random compliment right now.
Well, Steven is definitely someone that is easily talk. You can talk to him easily, because he is just has a calm demeanor. I'm a little brash, more rough around the edges, and
you don't
normally
say.
I just call. Normally I just call Steven, and he talks me off my ledge. And then if I didn't have him as a sounding board, I probably would be a whole lot worse. Him and my wife. He really meant the brother from another mother compliment or comment. I probably talked to him more than I talked to my twin brother, especially for our last few years on the board. I could go on and talk about him, but he is definitely the just even kiltered, gonna keep it light, gonna tell you, hey, I don't agree with you. He don't mind hurting your feelings if they need to be hurt. So that mentoring big brother feeling goes a lot longer than you could ever know.
Look at that. Deep thoughts by Doug. There it is, folks.
Hey, I've had a couple of today.
DUG.
DUG. Doug.
That's right.
All right.
That's how my grandma spelled it.
Yeah. All right, Doug, you're up.
Yeah, last one, Doug.
8.
Number 8. All right. Something you pretend to understand but don't. I can't wait for this answer. I cannot wait.
Something I pretend to understand but don't.
Barbecue, man. Joe.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand the cooking channel thing, man. Like, Brian's got that great cooking thing, but he cooks some stuff that I'm pretty sure comes out of a package, and he just puts it on his griddle.
Shots fired right here. Right.
I mean, this is coming from a man that told me he knew how to cook barbecue, and then I was like, so y'all do this, this, and this, and he was like, no, I don't do none of that. So I don't understand. But the best barbecue comes from Pinetown Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay, if you want real barbecue, you come to Southwest in March. I'm just saying, come to Southwest.
We'll be there. We got a bus.
No doubt. You better bring it. You better come early, because we'll be sold out.
Hey, we're gonna look. Pinetown don't sell no tickets. We're gonna be sold out in an hour and a half. We're gonna cook 900 chicken halves and 13 whole hogs. We'll be sold out in an hour and a half. Come get it.
I want everybody to see this is the trash talking that Doug and I have. In fact, we started a new thing. In fact, I think we got slack last week. We didn't send each other Sunday nights, but we've started this new little thing Sunday nights where we're sending each other weekend cooks. So that I fully expected that jab right there of what he said.
his first weekend cook looked amazing, and I cooked cheese quesadillas. So there you go.
He's like, we go easy on Sunday. I was like,
Yeah,
dude, you better bring it, is all I can say.
Yeah.
You better bring it.
My family's all pumped up about it now.
There you go. Whatever it takes. You're welcome.
That's
Bissette
right.
family. You're welcome.
All right. That's right.
Well, thank you guys both for joining us on this month's show. We're going to go wrap up with some other important announcements and everything else. Anything that as president and first vice president, you guys would love to leave with folks before we cut it out for this episode?
Just know that, hey, we're working for you every day in the fire service. You've got a voice on the board, and you've got plenty of people that'll listen on the board. So just don't faint, regardless of your size or demographics. You're important to the North Carolina Fire Service, and your voice and your opinion matters.
Doug, how about you?
I agree. Be involved. Be in the arena. Don't be in the stands talking about what's going on in the arena. Don't be afraid to step foot in that arena. There's more people that are like you in the arena and that need your help more than we need your help more than you need our help. Really, we need to have that unified voice to step in there. Don't be afraid to help out. We have a lot of people again that work quietly, and that's the fire service in North Carolina. We're here to serve other people, so be a part of the service of the fire service and help out.
Great. Thank you guys again for joining us.
Thank you.
So it's time for the segment of the Carolina Fire Spotlight. And we're going to start this one out in kind of a solemn moment as we want to pay remembrance to Chief Roy Spell, who passed away, unfortunately, on March 27th, 2026. And that was after our recording for the April show. But we want to acknowledge Chief Spell, who served as president of the North Carolina State Firefighters Association in 2002 and dedicated his life to the fire service, his faith, his family, and his community. He served as the fire chief of Greenville Fire Department and Elizabeth City Fire Department, as well as the deputy chief of Wilson Fire Department. His legacy continues to impact the fire service even today. Please keep the Spell family in your thoughts and your prayers. We'd also like to give some special retirement recognition to Chief Phil Welch on his retirement from Gastonia Fire Department. Thank you for your service, your leadership, and the commitment that you gave to your community. Congratulations on your retirement. Now, on to this month's Spotlight honoree. It comes from the East again, so if you're not sending in your honoree recognition, you need to do so at thecarolinafirewatch@gmail.com. This month's honoree comes to us from some members at Morehead City Fire and EMS. They wanted to recognize Deputy Chief Kane Johnson. Chief Johnson, with nearly 40 years of service, has built a career defined by commitment, leadership, and humility. Before joining Morehead City Fire and EMS, he served with the Cherry Point Federal Fire Department, and he retired as assistant chief. His members are what you would call a firefighter's chief, not because of what he says, but because of how he leads. He invests in his people, he trains the next generation, and he leads from the front. From the fireground to the classroom, his impact is felt across Eastern North Carolina, serving in major incidents and leading efforts like the Crystal Coast water rescue deployment during Hurricane Helene. And through it all, he's committed to one mindset. The fire service must be aggressive, progressive, and never willing to settle for good enough. So for that, we say thank you, Deputy Chief Kane Johnson, for your commitment to the service, and congratulations for being this month's Carolina Fire Spotlight. All right, now on to some critical deadlines and meetings. You obviously heard about Legislative Day, May 20th in Raleigh, but a couple other things to hit on. National Art. All right, now for our reminders and must remembers for critical deadlines and meetings. So here's a couple of key takeaways in additional to Legislative Day, May 20th, 2026 in Raleigh. National Arson Awareness Week is going to be occurring May 5th through the 11th. You can check in with OSFM as they're going to focus on prevention and community engagement. We hope to see a lot of you guys at Play on Pun, the NC Chiefs Midwinters Conference, May 12th through the 15th in Concord. A couple of things: if you're not attending the whole event floor, the whole conference, the exhibit floor will be open Thursday from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. and Friday 8 to 1. Another key reminder here is NCSFA wants to show your crew. That deadline is June 5th, and you can go to their website, southatlanticfirerescueexpo.com, and look for Show Us Your Crew, where you can update and send them all the information for photos and for videos. And those are your must remembers. Real quick, a couple of different things. Don't forget to subscribe to whatever platform you're on, as well as all socials. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, as well as all major podcast platforms. Be sure to share this with your department and keep the conversation going, especially when it comes to legislative matters. One little reminder, we're in the final stages of setting up our merch store, but we did get coins, and we're going to launch that on our social media platforms and tell you how you can get it. The price of those are $15, and anytime you see us in person, we'll have those with us. You're more than welcome to get those, especially after hours if we're at a training event, because just like you, we're there to learn. So thank you guys so much for the love and support that you've shown us. We love for this channel to keep growing, and thanks for all you do to help the fire service across North Carolina. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to this month's episode of the Carolina Fire Watch.
All right, hold on a second. I dropped my mouse midway through, and it's underneath my chair, so I cannot hit stop until I find it. I tried to find it while y'all were talking. Hold on.
I hope this makes the podcast.
Yeah. This is the blooper reels. Here we go.
Yeah.
Hold on.
The best part is you looking for it.
I know, right?